As always, I'm terrible with updates on a W12, but we have put the engine in for what is hopefully the last time. So the next time, well, we don't plan on taking it out unless there's some type of major failure or something like that. There's just piles of small stuff. We've got the cardboard list. Some things are scratched off. You can pause the video and watch it if you want to see what's on there. There's some other things I got to add. I'm just looking at our transmission oil cooler lines. These are the factory engine oil cooler lines that are used on the S8 to the factory engine oil cooler, which is not on the car. It is here. So I got to get new O-rings for it. These even feel fine, but I'm going to change them anyway. I want to get new AC O-rings before we button this up, because once this is fully put together, it will be completely inaccessible once it's in. We've got to run a coolant line from, where did it even go? We got to run a coolant line from that black hose there, and my phone battery's dying. We got to run a coolant line from that black hose there to this one here. It is just short enough to be a pain in the butt, as if it was another 3 inches longer, we wouldn't have to modify things or get a new hose. So that's unfortunate, but it's a very solvable problem among problems. Got to run a power steering line from the bottle here into the pump, which is this hose here. So we've got to connect those. These connectors here are unused. They're for solenoids and things on the Bentley harness. Same with this, that goes unused. I have to run a line, or wiring rather, for the for the transmission harness. For this transmission connector here, for the power, instead of it wrapping around the driver's side like the factory Bentley harness does, we have a down pipe and turbo and up pipe and a lot of things in the way. So we're gonna run it underneath this way and come up the passenger side where there is much less heat. Like I can just stick my whole phone right up in there because there's just no cat and no turbo like there would be on the Bentley. So the wiring will be a little happier. I'm gonna pop this drain plug out, change the diff oil just so that's fresh. We'll do the same on the rear diff. We'll drain and fill this thing. I want to get this shield put back on here. The downpipe, I know I'm kind of jumping around, you got to kind of stick with me. This is our 4-inch downpipe, right? So there's the pipe for that. This pipe mates up there with a V-band, and this pipe currently ends somewhere, let me zoom the thing out. The pipe ends somewhere around here right now, which is kind of near the rear diff area. So we've just got it. We're gonna run a single exit exhaust on it for now. So our pipe is just gonna come through the center tunnel, through here. We're gonna have a wiggle this way and then out. And maybe we'll add a second pipe for aesthetics down the road, but I wanna try to keep some heat off this if we can. When we modified the subframe, we had to cut part of the tub out, so we're gonna rivet in some new sheet metal there just to kind of pretty it up and keep it watertight. Just some other little detail things. Sway bars got to go back in. We got the upgraded TGK sway bar in that box there, so it's gonna get front and rear TGK bars. We'll offset some power for that extra weight we added into it, or upgrade the stiffness rather for some weight we added into it. I've got to figure out where the pinout is for the fuel pump control module, because we're going to use the stock fuel pump on this. Let's see if we can make 1,000 horsepower on it with our accumulator design. We'll see how this works. It should be interesting. I'd like to see the stock pump be able to run 1,000 plus wheel horsepower. We got to run wiring for this, so we'll probably actually tag off the alternator power cable. This is the other end of the alternator lug, so the cooling fans might just be run off. Oh no, I'm sorry, the cooling fans are going to the power distribution module we're using. There's a handful of stuff we got to figure out. So these go back into here, probably your signal wires for your fan control modules. We got to run wiring for the coolant pump. It's a CWA 400. The only exterior that we had to modify on the car was this grill. It just didn't fit. I tried and tried to not have that, and we even had to kind of make the pipe a little tighter angle, tighter radius rather than what a 1.5 inch pipe should be. But that's what we got. We have to rivet in some brackets. This is where builds get a little bit kind of messy. So for this intercooler that we're using, it doesn't fit super well behind this bumper. So if we wrench this forward, it keeps it off all of our pipes there. And we have the stock mounts for the RS3 intercooler that we're using here. And then we're going to rivet that onto the bottom of the bumper. So when the bumper is bolted back on, this intercooler is hard mounted on, it's mounted on rubber grommets on the top, and it's mounted on rubber grommets on the bottom. And then that rubber grommet is on a plate, which then is going to be riveted onto here. Here's the power steering cooler line. Once the bumper's off, we'll plug that back in. I don't know if Audi sells the AC O-ring for this. This is the line on the S8. So we're looking in the driver's side fender well. So this plugs into here. Once it's kind of tucked up where it's supposed to go. So we re-welded that so that pops in there. I'd love to change that O-ring. Just, we disturbed it. I'd like there to be a fresh O-ring, you know. And then this is our double stack of heat exchangers. This is an auxiliary radiator for the engine. That coolant line I talked about earlier, so that goes to this coolant pump here, which then goes to this control valve here, which then goes through the heat exchanger and then dumps back into the radiator just above your lower water inlet. So I guess I got to program that into the max ECU as well. So we'll pull on this solenoid and then run this pump if our coolant temps start to creep on us, which can't say for sure that they will, but it would kind of surprise me if they don't. I really didn't take any pictures or good video of the heat shielding we put on this. I sent them out and had Cerakote done on everything, and then we wrapped up every bit of up pipe and down pipe that I could get to. And I don't know where you can even see it. So all the up pipes and the down pipes are wrapped in that heat shield the best we can do. And I really just try to keep the heat down a little bit. And then we've got, you know, between the transmission cooler lines and everything here, that's a pretty tight fit. So, you know, obviously it's going to see quite a bit of heat from that, but we're trying to manage it the best way I know how on a wacky build like this. It's going to be making an awful lot of horsepower, and the heat's definitely going to be a challenge we're going to have to work around. And then it's things like, these brakes will probably clean up. I'm sure they'll be fine, but we might end up changing them out. The owner of the car was inquiring about carbon brakes, so I reached out to a supplier in China about that. He wants to try to drop some weight on this to offset what we've added. We were talking lightweight racing battery, put one of the lithium like anti-gravity batteries in, or you know, pick your brand. Doing a set of lightweight wheels. He wants to get some drag wheels on it, whether they're, you know, whatever brand he fancies. I guess these were off of his A7. He needed to put those on. He took the S8 wheels. They're on his A7 now. But he was talking a lightweight set of wheels, possibly carbon brakes, and a lightweight battery. Figured between the wheels, the brakes, and a battery, it's probably 150 pounds or so off the car. I don't know exactly, but we will scale the car when it's done, so we should have a pretty good idea when it's, you know, running, driving, full of fluids, you know, what kind of weight we're at versus a stock S8. I'm really curious to see. I'm sure it's heavier, you know, a couple 100 pounds, maybe. I don't know exactly. All the factory rack stuff should be good. There's some unknowns that we're going to find out soon enough. The power steering pump on the Bentley has hydraulic lines that are quite a lot larger than the Audi S8. So I don't know what pressure or flow that Bentley pump likes versus what the Audi rack wants. And I don't know if that's going to prove to be an issue or not. I guess we're going to find out once we start it. But I mean, worst case, we could always just put an electric hydraulic pump on this if there's just no way to make this hydraulic pump work. But chances are it'll probably just be fine. And I don't think that we'll have issues with it. I've already pulled the oil pan off. This was off of a 78,000 mile Bentley Continental. GT Speed. So, but just for funsies, I took the oil pan down, checked it, made sure there's no sludge, resealed it, and then we put plugs back in all the spots and extra plugs. So this one here, this black one, and this one here had ports for the factory catch cans or oil separators. That's what I was looking for. So the factory oil separators have a vent line and then the oil drain line. So as the oil separators, accumulating oil, it can drain back to the pan. They must have pretty effective oil separators because the intake, even at that mileage, is very clean. Like there's very little oil in it. This is a port injected engine, so that really isn't going to affect like carbon buildup issue on the valves. But it's always better to have less oil than more. So I guess at that price point, you can spend the money for the best stuff. So it should have working AC. It's got the factory power steering cooler for the S8. It's got a totally different transmission cooler than the S8. The trans cooler on the S8 is a coolant cooler. So it just, the oil pumps out through water to water brick or oil to water brick. And then the engine coolant cools the transmission. And I'm sure there's thermostats and regulation or however they regulate that temperature as well. So now the Bentley doesn't have that. The Bentley has a thermostat, which we kept in line. So this is the original Bentley thermostat. And then the Bentley trans cooler is actually smaller than what we're putting in here. I'm just hoping that the oil cooler here is good enough flow-wise for the transmission fluid. I mean, going from engine oil to trans fluid, I can't imagine it's going to be an issue. I'm sure it's going to be okay, but we'll see. I don't think I have anything else to update other than it's just wiring. I've got two I got two LSU 4.9 wide bands to measure left bank, right bank pre-turbo. We also have pressure compensation or exhaust pressure sensors before the turbo left and right, so we can measure that and then use Max ECU's wideband pressure compensation charts, the way Bosch wishes, like it has their charts on the Bosch Motorsport website. So apparently if you use those pre-turbo, you're supposed to have exhaust back pressure also. I guess that's a requirement of metering metering wideband that way. Sorry guys, I'm really exhausted right now. kind of feel just tired. We're also using 4 Bosch ADV sensors, and those are, I forget the brand, it's a CAN communication wideband unit. I can't remember the name of the company that does them. So we're going to have 4 widebands hooked up that way. Hopefully there's no kind of communication interference having 4 on the same bus. I guess we'll figure that out as we go. But I have the wideband measured every three cylinders is its own bank. Max ECU won't monitor or modulate wideband per 3 cylinders. They're only going to do left bank, right bank, which is okay. But I just want to be able to monitor it, because if you're doing left bank and right bank, you could have fuel injectors quite far off and still have a good average and then end up torching a piston if you're too lean. We're over-instrumenting this engine, kind of for fun too. We also have 12 EGT sensors on it. So we've got wideband every 3 cylinder, and then we have EGT on every cylinder. So we'll see. I got to order new control arms for the front. All the bushings are wasted on it. Should probably order that sooner than later, because I'd like to drive this thing soon. As far as the CAN communication for the interior, to get the dash and stuff working, I think we're just going to get the car running and driving first, as long as the air suspension